This is John Abrams, and this is The Variety Artist, episode 68. I'd like to start today's show by thanking you. Thanks for listening to my podcast. Without you, this wouldn't be possible. I appreciate you listening and sharing and telling your friends. That's how we keep this thing alive and growing. Well, since I've been doing this Best Of series, I've had a chance to go back and listen to a bunch of my interviews. All my guests have been so giving with great info and amazing stories. Today's no different. Would you like to book 60 shows in 5 minutes? Well, I'm halfway through a summer schedule over 100 shows in 2 months. Listen to this interview and you'll understand exactly how I do it. This is my friend Ken Frawley. It's my very first interview on the Variety Artist podcast. Since then, Ken has become a bit of a superstar at conventions. People want to take their picture with him and are dying to get more info. If you like this interview, and I know you will, go back and listen to some that you missed. There's lots of great info in each and every show. Enjoy this one. It's a doozy. What makes a good 5-minute spot?
They'll book 90 shows.
Right.
Not 10 or 20, but 90 shows.
Welcome to The Variety Artist, providing aspiring artists and entertainers with in-depth discussions from top performers from all over the world. So get ready to book some gigs, make some money, and have some fun with your host, John Abrams.
Our guest today has done everything. Ken has performed his acclaimed children and family programs for over 2,000 libraries, schools, preschools, community events, fairs, and festivals, and for hundreds of thousands of children and their families throughout Southern California. His programs include Wonderful World of Stories and Song, Animal Tales and Musical Scales, and The American Cowboy with Cowboy Ken. He's also the co-founder of Dream Shapers, an arts organization helping hundreds of entertainers book tens of thousands of school and library shows throughout Southern California. Ken runs and is in charge of running 2 library showcases in and around the Los Angeles area, and is the producer and creator of Performers University, a website designed specifically to help entertainers book more and be better. In fact, he's putting together a Performers University conference right now with terrific speakers from around the world. Excited to have as my very first guest on this podcast. He sings, he plays guitar, he's an amazing performer, the hardest working entertainer I know. Variety Artist, I give you Ken Frawley.
Well, thank you for having me, John. This is great.
You're very welcome. Now, I talked a lot about business. Tell me a little bit about your personal life.
Well, I've been married for 35 years. I got 4 kids. I have 5.5 grandkids. One's on the way.
Wait, half?
Half, still in the oven. It's still working its way out. It's a little boy. We don't know its name yet, but he's due the end of May this year, so that's great. Mm-hmm. I've been in business for myself since 1982, so I haven't worked for anybody since then. And,
me either. It really is the way to go.
I don't know how I could work for anybody. And in the early 90s, I decided to get into the entertainment business as a performer, doing children's and family shows.
Well, what made you decide to do that?
Well, I was always the, the Pied Piper of kids, even when I was growing up. I was the guy that would park my car in the lawn, put out the buckets of water in the ladder, and all the kids in the neighborhood would come over and start washing my car for me, a little Tom Sawyer-ish.
Okay.
All I had to do was listen to their stories. And in college, a friend of mine used to do a lot of inner city YMCA groups or boys and girls clubs, and he asked me to come and sing. And I used to go and just make up songs and sing with the kids, and I always enjoyed it. I was going to be an elementary school teacher, but then I got into business and saw that I could make a lot more money in business than as the teacher. So as time went on, I stayed in business for 25 or 30 years before I finally decided to shut that down and go back into working with children and getting back into entertainment.
Oh. Before you did the entertainment business, what kind of businesses were they?
I had a wholesale and import, textile, vertical blind, mini blind, distribution, installation company. We did over $2.5 million a year. I had 21 employees.
Wow.
Yeah, it was also a lot of pressure. I had payroll every week of $30,000. I had receivables of $350,000. It was very stressful. And after a really horrendous IRS audit, I decided decided that I didn't want all that stress if I was going to get beaten up by the government. So I sold the business to some employees, and I opened up an audio-video production company, and I opened up Storytellers and Troubadours, which would later become Dream Shapers.
Gotcha.
And went kind of just into business for myself with a much smaller group of people. Ultimately, now with YouTube, the DVD business is basically gone.
Right.
But the Dream Shapers has really grown to doing a lot of very good work here in Southern California.
So wait, tell me, what exactly is Dream Shapers? What do you actually do with them?
Dream Shapers is a 501c3 nonprofit arts organization. Michael D. McCarty, a storyteller here in Southern California, and I put it together in the early 90s. And our ultimate goal was to provide great quality children's and family entertainment to institutions in Southern California. We were not interested in birthday parties or corporate events. It was going to be schools, libraries, theaters, city events, fairs, festivals, preschools, things like that we were going to market any kind of independent artist who wanted to come with us. And then we realized if we had an arts organization, we had to have our own roster, much like the Music Center or the Center did,
Sure.
in order to help support it.
By the way, the Music Center, for those of you across the country, we have something in Southern California called the
Music Center in LA and the Center in Orange County.
Right. And originally, they were booking a ton of schools and libraries back then, and still do, right?
And, they do schools, but mostly residencies now, from what I understand, in the schools, because the school market has changed a little bit. They were a very closed group. In other words, if you weren't on their roster, you weren't getting any of the publicity or any of the money spent on marketing that the Sigurdsson Center in Orange County or the Amundsen Center in LA could spend to promote their artists. So when we created Dream Shapers, we wanted our roster of artists, which would then help support the arts organization. But we also wanted to make our marketing plan available to all independent artists in Southern California who met our qualifications. We didn't want to just open it up to somebody who said, oh yeah, I'm a children's and family performer today, and had never done it.
Right.
They had to be able to prove to us that they were quality enough to be in the collection of people that were there. It's the old adage, one mistake is worth, 1,000 great things that you do.
That's right, because we know that librarians talk, principals
That's
talk,
right.
And if you have a good reputation and good people,
That's right.
then you will work over and over again. One bad egg, librarians spread the word, right?
That's right. There are only a few things that we kick artists off of our roster for, but they're serious enough that it reflects so badly on the rest of us, they have to go. And the same thing with the showcases and the directories. The artists that participate have to be able to do what they say they're going to do. So when they get to a library, they're able to do a 45-minute show. Or when they apply, they don't have any secret baggage in their past that's going to cause a scandal amongst children's and family performers.
Sure. Well, let's go back to those showcases. What exactly is a showcase?
Well, a showcase, just to give you a bit of a history here in Southern California, I know that I got a grant a few years ago to travel the country and go to some other showcases. Mm-hmm. And they all pretty much, even in the other parts of the country, work like ours. But to go back, Orange County, in my recollection, about 35 years ago with the librarian then Lynn Eisenhut, started the showcases. And the idea was to put a day where all the librarians could come together and performers could get up and give a 5 or a 6 minute presentation of what they were offering the libraries with programming. It would run all day. Artists, one after another, would get up and showcase their work. And that was a great way for artists to get work. Well, later on, County of Los Angeles started to have their own showcase, and Inland Empire, which is Riverside, San Bernardino, that area in Southern California out into the desert, they started to have their own showcase. Well, that went along fine for 5 or 6 years. And all of us here, and you yourself included,
Yes.
know the importance of showcasing.
Yeah, in fact, my first showcase ever was 1999, I think. Library Kids Lead the Way was the theme. In fact, I'll tell you the story of my first showcase ever. And this is why it's important to do these showcases. I had done a show for my local library where I lived. The librarian came to me and said, do you want to do this library showcase? And I was from the acting world. And in the acting world, when you do what's called a showcase, you and maybe 7 or 8 other groups do scenes in front of a casting director, and that casting director may or may not hire you. So I was from the school that showcases don't really matter. You get very little work from them. So this librarian comes to me and says, do you want to do the showcase? Finally, I agree on it. I have 2 minutes at the end of the showcase. Everybody does their 5 minutes, and because I was one of the last people to start it. So I'm sitting through the showcase. Before the showcase, I prepared all sorts of different magical things. And as I'm watching the showcase, throughout the entire showcase, people were doing the things that I had planned.
That happens to all of us.
It does.
Yeah, it does.
And I know I'm last, and I know that all these librarians are going to watch me, and they're going to say, oh, well, I've seen that, and I've seen that, and I've seen that.
Every magician has done the floating table before you.
Yeah. A couple of years ago, I think six
or seven did the floating table.
Magicians did the floating table. I went into the bathroom and I splashed some water on my face, and I said to myself, gosh, what am I going to do? These are the only things that I have prepared. I went up in front of anybody. You may remember this. I don't know. I went up in front of everybody and said, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm about to summarize everything you just saw in this showcase. And I did exactly what I planned. I booked 27 or 28 shows in a little 2-minute piece. And that's why showcases are important.
That's right. And artists, there's so many new artists that will book, the first year they go out, will book 30 and sometimes even more. I had one of our new artists book 60 in the first summer that he went out.
60 shows
60
in 5 minutes.
In 5 minutes. But then there's other artists that will get nothing or
That's
get
right.
1 or 2 shows. And you and I both have been seeing and doing this for so long. There are some key things that performers do that hurt themselves on it. Back to the showcase. So Inland Empire and County of Los Angeles, because of budgetary cuts, were going to cancel their showcases. I knew how important showcases were to the performers. And with Dream Shaper's mission being trying to promote artists to the community, ours and others, to get work. Because unless an artist is getting work, how can they continue to do what they're doing? Just to be altruistic and have this great art form going out there, that's all great. But for me, I had to earn a living at being an artist. And I think most artists do.
The more you do it, the better you get at it.
That's right. I knew the people at County of LA and I knew the people at Inland Empire. So I went to them and offered them that Dream Shapers, because of our nonprofit status, we would put together the entire showcase. All they had to do was pick a location, a date, and send all of the librarians to it.
Nice.
And they both agreed to do it. And so for the last 15 or more years, we've been putting on LA County and Inland Empire Showcase for sure the last years, those two. The idea for us was then to put together, once they agreed to the showcase, then I had to put together all the aspects of the showcase.
Sure.
And I realized that it was well above and beyond what I could do personally by myself. So what I've always done in life is I collaborate. So I put together a group of core artists, people I thought I invited in that were, very booked, very professional artists in the market, and we began to structure how the showcases would be structured. We went to what Inland Empire had was a split stage. Susan Erickson established that out there, where one half of the stage was performing while the other half of the stage was set up.
And Susan Erickson was
the
one
head
of the head
County of San Bernardino Library's Children's Services.
Okay.
She's now retired and gone, but not gone. As she just moved. I hope she's having a great time in St. George, Utah these days. Okay,
she's moved on.
Yes, it's not how I meant it to sound. But anyway, she's a wonderful person. We adopted her style of showcase because the Orange County, which was the original one, would have one artist on stage. So the setup and takedown time adds probably over the course of the day 8 to 10 more artists. And in my view, the more we are in front of the libraries, the better off we are. So with Inland Empire and San Bernardino, being we were artists, we decided that it was important that artists get on every other year on the showcase.
Gotcha.
Because, and if you're on Orange County Showcase, it's 5 years till you're on again.
That's right.
Well, the result in that is a geometric diminishment in our business in Orange County.
That's right, because librarians do change.
30% almost every year, yeah. So being that we're an artist-run organization, we run the showcase as an artist-run showcase. And I know a lot of new artists complain, and there's other artists that will complain about it, but by and large, everybody will say, oh, the big one they always complain about is 5 minutes. I want 7 minutes. 7 minutes. I can really show off better if 7 minutes. I go, okay, if I give everybody 7 minutes, that means probably 8 more artists are not going to get on stage that year, which means instead of guaranteeing you every 2 years, it's going to be every 3 years. Are you okay with getting on the stage every 3 years? And 99.9% of artists go,
yeah, of course.
No, 5 minutes will work for me.
Librarians know when they see a showcase, they know within the first 30 seconds whether they're going to hire that person or not.
Yeah, they do, but I think sometimes they're hoodwinked. But I'll get back to the hoodwink thing here in a second. Craig Newton, another performer here in Southern California, he's done countless shows in schools and libraries.
He's a musical artist that plays about every instrument in the world.
I know, he does shows with multiple instruments. He's very personable. The librarians absolutely love him. He does all the things you need to do to be successful in this business, and he is. And I like him personally. So Craig and I, many, many years, were standing in the back watching performers, and there was one performer that was just horrific up on stage. Craig said, 5 minutes isn't long enough for a good performer, but it sure is too long for an awful performer.
That's true.
And I have used that adage forever, that if you're good, it is not long enough, but you can still do it. And if you're awful, it is too long. But back to the hoodwinked. With Inland Empire and County of Los Angeles, if anybody listening to this is in Southern California ever wanted to participate in them, it's open to everybody with qualifications. County of Los Angeles requires an audition, and Inland Empire requires 3 letters of reference or other things that prove that you are a quality children's and family performer. So if you were a member of the Music Center or the Center, you're easily into the showcases, But if you're brand new, it's a little harder to get on those showcases. Orange County, anybody can get onto the showcase, and last year over half of the performers were brand new, and that's what it is every year. LA County, what was I figuring, somewhere around 4% of the performers were new at LA County, and about 10% were new in Inland Empire. It's just much harder, and the idea the County of Los Angeles Inland Empire wanted, they want their librarians to hire quality people.
Sure.
They don't want to futz around with people that are going to cause their librarians problems.
Oh, yeah.
I have heard over and over again in the last 30 years from Orange County and independent librarians about performers they bought at Orange County Showcase that said, this is almost a verbatim quote over and over, man, they did a great 5-minute presentation and they did an awful 45-minute show.
Yeah, I do know.
If they're a good performer, they could do a great 5-minute presentation. But if they've not ever worked with kids, it's not necessarily difficult for us because all the years we've been doing it.
Oh, yeah.
But it is difficult to maintain those attentions. So sometimes those 5-minute showcases really hoodwink.
Oh, yeah.
I remember years ago there was a Snow White performer, and she got up there, and she was very beautiful, and she had a very large chest, and she had a very low-cut top. Craig Newton and I were standing in the back going, wow, how is she going to do this? We bend over a lot for our kids, Sure enough, I went to one of the libraries and followed her and asked the librarian, and she goes, oh my gosh, that was one of the worst shows. All she did was bend over, and the dads loved it, but the moms were incensed about the show.
And it's mostly women. It's mostly moms.
Mostly mom. We took over the showcases years ago in an effort to generate work for not only our performers, but all of the other quality performers around, using my same philosophy, which was, if Dream Shapers surrounds itself with good quality people, we will get our fair share of the work.
Sure.
And we do, every year. Dream Shapers books, this year we booked over 800 shows.
That's great.
And thinking of all the directories and things, we probably help artists generate well over 5,000 shows a year.
So in addition to the showcase, you also put out a directory with entertainers, pictures and summary and such. So what is that all about?
So Inland Empire had a directory when they were doing the showcase. It was just a paper directory, and I thought it was a great thing to hand out. When we took over the showcases, we started off for the first couple of years with just a black and white paper directory we made for Inland Empire and for LA County. Well, then the group of us, of performers that got together, thought, well, why don't we just upgrade the showcase a little bit? And we started looking into it. It wasn't that much more to create a 4-color directory. One of the people that came to our showcase was Rosemary Habel out of Class Act in Chicago.
Okay.
And she does school assemblies and libraries all up and down the East Coast, all up and down the West Coast. And she had a really great directory, color directory, I fell in love with, that was the perfect size for what we were looking to do. The price was only a few $100s more to do the 4-color over the black and white. So we as a group decided that why don't we upgrade our professional look? If we are going to be professional artists in Southern California, let's look professional. So we upgraded the directory to look professional. And then we did things because Pete Ellison with Show Operations, he
which, by the way, you'll hear on this podcast shortly.
Shortly, okay. And One World Rhythm, great guy. He was part of the core group, and he was upset because we had an expo connected to the showcase.
Sure.
And the expo was where the performers would set up tables and the librarians could go around. Most of the time, the performers complain that the librarians try not to interact with them. They try not to look at them. The librarians on their side feel that their performers are like a bunch of scavengers that are all trying to peck at them as they walk by.
You know what's funny is I've been in the middle of these expos. The librarians, they will look at you if they're going to hire you. And they'll look at all the good performers, the performers that they're going to hire, and then the rest they'll ignore.
Yes.
So if there's 50 people in the room and they're hiring 6, they're ignoring 44 people.
That's right. And all the performers are stressed to get their literature into the hands of every librarian that was there. And I used to have to fight, and every now and then I do, because I never wanted the auditorium where they sit or the hallways to be marketing ploys for artists.
Sure.
So I've always had to shoo artists out from putting literature out on the seats or handing them out in the hallways. It's in the expo room. It gives professionalism to the whole event to do that. So anyway, Pete was talking about how the expo room became the Isle of Desperation. You know, it was like this island of desperate artists full of librarians that were all frightened to be on the island. You know, it was like sheep around a pack of wolves, right? So, you know, they would be frightened about this. He suggested that we come up with a hospitality bag. And so now we create a hospitality bag we hand out at LA County, Inland Empire, and we hand it out at the Orange County Showcase also. And in that, every performer that's in the directory can send in literature for free. We pack it into these bags. And it amazes me, John, you probably don't know this, but it amazes me that oftentimes we only get 50% of the artists to send in their literature. And it's free. They get it into the hands of what are these people thinking?
Oh, yeah.
Free! Do you understand? Free! Into the hands of your buyer! Free! You know, it's just, okay, I just have given up worrying about it. You know, that my stuff is in their hands, so I'm probably in a better position to get more work than all of that other 50 that aren't out there. So as we went along, we then had to charge for our showcases.
When you charge for a showcase, it raises the level of the talent in the showcase.
Yes, it does, because all those people that are brand new, that have never done a show before, that don't even have a clue if they can even be successful at it, it cuts them out.
Yes.
Because they won't spend money on their career. Whereas if they've been doing it for a while, they'll spend money.
It's a small amount of money, too, in the whole scheme of things.
You know something? The basic package that we've always had is less than one booking.
Yeah.
Where else can you market to every librarian in Southern California for the price of less than one booking?
So if you book 1, you break even. You book 10, you've multiplied your investment 10 times.
Yeah, and some of the performers, like David Cousin, some of the more booked performers, you know?
We can say David Cousin.
Okay.
He's terrific.
He is. I hate jugglers, but David is great.
He's great.
No, I tease Dave with that all the time. Performers, they get lots of bookings. They've spent well over $1,000 now in the directory because they'll book 90 shows.
Right.
Not 10 or 20, but 90 shows.
Sure.
And it is just a great thing. And now it goes out to the cities. And when we took over the showcase, Dream Shapers couldn't afford to do it. So it was being paid for by the County of LA, by Inland Empire. Their staff was doing it. So when we took it over, how were we going to pay for it?
Sure.
Well, let's co-op it amongst all the artists. And so that's what we have done. To spend $250 or $350 to be in front of, and every 2 years on stage, minimally,
Oh, yeah.
is a very inexpensive way to market yourself. And the only ones that really have any problems with it are the new artists.
Right, because they don't understand the importance of the investment.
That's right. That's always one of the number one things. Well, why are you charging the showcase? Which you asked in one of the questions was, do you have any gripes about performers? And so I'll go ahead and give you my gripe at this point. So new performers, for years I would call and I would spend some time with them on the phone. And 85% of them would never participate in the showcases. So I began to realize that I was wasting an awful lot of time on a new artist that was not capable of doing what we do in the libraries. So I then spent probably a week and I created an informational packet that explains everything anyone ever needed to know. Why do we charge for the showcase? How does the showcase work? What does a 5-minute stay, what does this 5 minutes mean? On and on, the same questions. So I did this whole big informational package. So now new artists call me and I'll say, well, have you read my informational package yet on the web? Well, no, I haven't read it. And my answer is, well, give me your email. I'll send you the link. You read it. But I only have a few questions. No, I don't have time for you.
All those answers are on there. I've read it.
You read it. And if you want, then call me after you've read it. But I can't spend the time with you on this. So
I don't blame you, because I've read it, by the way.
Yeah.
And it answers pretty much any question you would have.
I have had very few artists. Usually what they'll call back is they'll ask me about, well, when can I pay? Can I make adjustments on the payment? Or it's something that's not listed in there. And we're pretty flexible. We work with artists because we're not trying to keep anybody out of this marketplace.
Sure.
But we are trying to pre-screen the artists. So everyone in the directory, any librarian is going to get a quality show from those people.
Right.
And it helps everybody in the directory. So for the last 15 years, that's what we've been doing. And we did the hospitality bag. We send all the artists have given us information. Now we give out free gifts to get the librarians to stay.
Wow.
A bingo to go around and meet people.
That's right.
Bingo was designed by us.
What a bingo thing is, Ken's group gives out bingo cards. Each number corresponds with an artist number. Number 1, number 2, number 3, etc. And then the librarians go from booth to booth. The artist signs the card. And what happens if one of the librarians gets bingo?
Then they put it into a basket. And at the end of the day, we have drawings. And we give out tablets. We give out not cheap gifts for these people. We spend a few $100s to put together a nice collection of gifts to encourage them to get bingo, to encourage them to go around that aisle of desperation to meet the artists, and to make the artists feel better that they're getting to meet all of these librarians.
And if the artists are smart, and by the way, variety artists out there, if you're smart, when you're playing this bingo thing, take a second to talk to the people. Don't just give them a pitch.
Yes.
One of the best things to do is just to get to know them. If you haven't met a librarian before, just get to know them a little bit, because eventually that pitch will come, then they'll be more receptive to it.
Well, that brings us to another one of the questions you wanted me to ask me, which was, advice to new artists.
Sure.
One of my number one advice to a new artist is, depending on the time of the year, but if they've missed the directory, my advice is always come to the showcases.
Yeah.
Come and sit and watch your competition. Come and sit and see how this thing works. Come and walk around the expo room and see what people are doing and talking. Network with the artists. You'll find children's and family artists are some of the nicest people I've ever met in any business anywhere.
Yeah.
You can walk up, you can talk to them, and most of them are perfectly willing to give you some advice or insight on what you could and should do if you want to get into this business. It's a great way for you to see where you stand as a new artist in this marketplace. You can learn about pricing. There's so many things you can learn about.
And one of our friends, Billy Bonkers, was telling the story the other day. He went to 2 different showcases before he showcased. And he asked questions, and he saw the performances, and he talked to librarians. And then by the time he actually performed, he was ready to perform. And he booked how many?
30, 40 shows.
30 or 40 shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, multiply that out.
That's right. And here's the problem for a new artist, and they don't think this thing through. If they showcase at Orange County and they're not ready, it's 5 years before they get on again.
That's right.
5 years. I have performers multiple times coming to me saying, man, do I wish I would have waited a year before I applied to Orange County. Do I wish I would have waited a year.
Because then they'd know better what to do.
That's right, because they bombed their first year, and now it takes 5 years before they ever get another chance again.
Right.
At least with our showcases, it's every other year. And we have that same 2-minute scenario at the end. Almost everyone that stays, I've yet to have a showcase where everyone that stays doesn't get 2 minutes at the end to give a pitch for themselves. Every year people can get on stage if they just stay till the end of the day. And new artists can get on for that.
Wait, here's another little bit of advice that this year, in one of the showcases, somebody didn't show up. So I got a 5-minute spot. I originally wasn't slated for the 5-minute spot, but I did have a few props in the car and a couple of things. My advice to anybody out there, even if you're not showcasing and you are showing up at a showcase, come prepared with something to do just in case, because you never know what can happen.
That's right. Showcases are very fluid. They change pretty rapidly. I sat at Orange County. I do the sound for Orange County too, and I sat there this year. A magician got up there. He was slated to be on.
Yeah.
And he pulls out dental floss.
Oh.
And he did a trick with dental floss.
Great close-up trick, by the way.
You cannot see what he's doing. I was sitting 20 feet away at the sound table laughing because I couldn't see what he was doing and going, he's just wasted 3 minutes of his showcase.
Tell us what makes a good showcase. What makes a good 5-minute spot?
Well, from all the years of talking to librarians, they've got a couple comments. So I'll give everybody basically the formula. The librarians don't want a lot of talking or exposition or you telling them how wonderful you are or how wonderful your shows are or how much the children love your shows. They don't care about your opinion.
And they may or may not believe you.
That's right. They just don't care. Basically, they do like a little bit of exposition at the beginning, saying, "Hi, my name is John Abrams, and I have animal magic, and I am a magic show with live animals, and here's what I do."
Bam.
Bam. You've got 15, 20 seconds of exposition. Then you pull out your little chinchilla that is just terrible because everybody loves this damn little thing. Forgive me, chinchilla, wherever you are. I like you too.
He's in the other room. I'll put some earplugs on.
You pull out animals. I mean, come on, Jeez.
It's animals and magic. What
Animals,
do you want?
that's right. So then you go in and you do, and I've watched you showcase. You do it. You go in and you say something basically like that, and then bang, you do 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 little things. But generally, I think you're limited to 3 in what you normally do.
Yeah, if you can fit it in.
Yeah, if you can fit 3. But I've seen you fit 3 things in what you do. And as a magician, 3 is a good number.
Yep.
And they've got to be good things. And you do what I always want the Dream Shaper artist to do. You do things, your best things. You do things that are going to get the audience engaged. You do things that the audience are going to call and respond to you. You do things that the audience are on stage performing with you.
Right.
A lot of performers, they get up and just do their thing. The audience isn't involved on or off stage. You might as well just lock the door and walk away. It's just, you're not going to get work. I mean, you might get a show here or there if somebody really liked what you've seen. But if you do a showcase and you don't get, 10 bookings, you've done something wrong.
Yeah.
In your showcase. And then at the very end, you always follow it up with 5 or 10 seconds of, "Hey, I'm John Abrams. You can see me at this table over here and come and book me for the summer." A call to action, just like everything else we do, right?
There you go.
The websites, the variety artists.
We're going to talk about
Come and see all of the rest of these things.
Yes. We will talk about that call to action.
That's
Everything must always have a call to action.
Always have a call to action. So small exposition, great demonstrations, a call to action at the end, and you walk off.
That's it.
And that's the basic formula for doing a good showcase.
That is a great formula.
That's a great formula for a showcase. But there's still a lot of work that new and nearly new artists need to do. It's coming up in a future blog that I have coming out on Performers University's blog.
Okay.
And I'm giving a 6-part series on, if you're going to showcase, these are the things you need to do to prepare yourself for that introduction, the 3 gags, and then the call to action at the end. Because there's so much work a new artist has to do. For example, the girl that got out and did the variety, the balloon twisting, and she put a plastic donut on it and had a little, like what Michael Rayner does, with only he does it with a burger,
yes.
A McDonald's burger.
Michael Rayner is a hilarious juggler in the Los Angeles area. If you haven't heard of him, he's terrific. He spins
He's been on television shows.
He's been all over the place. He spins an umbrella and puts a hamburger on top of it. The hamburger spins around as the umbrella spins around, riding the umbrella. He does all sorts of crazy comedy and
he's just so enthusiastic. It's massive. And there was a young girl who got up and did the same thing with a plastic little donut thing, and she was kind of like all really cutesy and stuff. It just happened for her bad luck. Michael Rayner showcased about an hour after her. And there was just hands down, it's like Well,
this is kind of what we're talking about. Watch the don't
watch the
just
showcases.
Go in and perform.
That's right.
Watch the showcase, because if she would have watched a couple of showcases, she would have seen Michael Rayner do his thing.
Right. That's right.
And be amazing.
And the other thing is organizations like Cadabra or the South Coast Storytelling Guild or the Puppetry Guild in Southern California. New artists or nearly new artists should join virtually every guild association they can. Especially, I joined Children's Music and the Storytelling Guild when I first came into this thing. And those people that had been in that business for a while really helped me come to understand how the business worked, what I needed to do, told me about the showcases, really taught me a lot of things before I actually went out and started to work as a performer in this business.
That's a great suggestion. So if you have a group nearby, Cadabra is something I'm involved with.
They're in Southern California.
Right.
But there's the national...
There's actually an international Cadabra, which is, they do children's entertainers, is what they are. Right. Probably one near you. All you have to do is look it up on the internet.
That's right. New artists that they would just spend some time reading, spend some time looking, spend some time understanding. And the last thing I did when I came into this business, when I decided to get in, I went and watched a lot of shows.
Oh.
I went and saw magicians, puppeteers. I was a children's music artist, but I went and watched how other people perform with children. And I took little bits from a magician and little bits from a puppeteer and little bits from here and audience interaction. And I watched a variety of children's music artists, found a style in an artist that I really liked, and I kind of mimicked that style as opposed to the other ones I saw.
Sure.
Ultimately, I came out, the very first year I came out in the library showcases, I did Orange County Showcase, and I got 48 shows that year.
Wow.
But I was prepared.
Sure.
I didn't just come onto the market not knowing how to relate to the audience, not knowing what I was doing. I came in prepared. I got 48 shows. The following year, I booked over 90 shows.
That's great.
Within the first 2 years. And for me personally, I book probably over the last 20 years, an average of 140 or more shows. Just for me personally.
That's great.
So,
and one of the nice things about that, too, it's not just 140 shows. Even if you don't showcase the following year, most of those, if you do a good job, will repeat.
That's right.
So when you're calculating, what is the cost of the showcase, or what is the cost of the directory, or what is the cost of whatever you're putting out, multiply that out, because you're going to have that same... I have libraries I've been doing for 20 years.
Yes.
So if you multiply that out times 20 years, my initial investment was just the showcase.
For me, a new performer, it's not the first year. A lot of performers can get that first year. It's a little harder the second year. For me, it's the third year. If a performer can still maintain and get 50 or more shows the third year, chances are they're going to be around for a while. Because the third year is really the hardest year. You've seen a lot of people saw you the first year, 50. Your second year, you're going to get a lot of new just from, if you did a good job, you're going to get a lot of the librarians talking to each other.
A lot of referrals.
A lot of referrals will come to you the second year. And then the third year, if you haven't done a great job in the first 2 years, you'll see a geometric decline in the business in the third year. Susan Erickson used to say that, the market would take care of itself. And it does. If a performer, there's great performers that have no business sense, that don't follow up on their communication, that don't call and confirm their shows, that don't just do the basic business things, then end up not getting any work, even though they love them as a performer.
Sure.
They fall down on the other side of the business.
Well, I just wrote a blog for Performers University about before you do your show.
Yes.
What to do. Well, tell us about what is this Performers University thing?
I went to a conference here on the West Coast. It was a 3-day conference. It was pretty expensive. I figured if I was to have gone and stayed up there, it was going to cost me $800 to $1,000 to have attended. It was a lot of international and national artists that came in, and they were offering advice on the Southern California market that was ridiculous. They knew nothing about the Southern California market. I've traveled to other places of the country with the showcases, and there's places that library shows are getting $550 for a show.
Goodness.
Ain't gonna happen here.
Not here.
Talk to some of the people that have moved from the East Coast to Southern California, and the culture shock in the price range here is shocking.
I'm going to switch gears on you here, Ken. Let's talk about performer horror stories.
If you've been entertaining for any amount of time, you have a number of horror stories under your belt.
I must tell you,
give us one.
Every
Ken.
time we do showcases, most of the time we go out to dinner, a group of performers go out to dinner. Almost always, that's all we do for the whole dinner is share horror stories and laugh until tears are coming out of our eyes.
It's a fun pastime.
It is a fun pastime, and there are some that are so awful that my horror stories are nothing compared to some other people. But I think one of my horror stories began right at the very beginning of my career, and I've never let it happen again. I had a children's music group called Casey and Company. There were 4 of us, and we were playing at the Moreno Valley 4th of July Festival. It was supposed to end at noon. We were on the back of a flatbed truck in Moreno Valley, which is in the desert. It's 125, feels like 280 degrees in the sun in Moreno Valley in the summertime. So we're on the back of this truck, and they say, no, it's 12. Well, nobody was there. There was people way out in the fringes of this thing because the parade hadn't ended yet. So they wanted us to start. I had a couple characters. One was a spider, and one was a dragon, and so we sent the fellow that was the dragon character out, and he walked around as we were singing, and he gathered up about 25 kids to come and sing songs. We're a children's music group. They have to have kids. We got to interact with the kids for it to work. It just doesn't work.
You need an audience.
How do you do a magic show without any kids to do the magic with? So anyway, we're standing there, and we're hot and we're sweaty, but finally we got some kids. And this man comes running up, and he says, I've got an announcement to make. And I go, really? Yeah, can I make an announcement? Okay, and I handed him the microphone. This was at the beginning of my career when I was very naive about the world. He takes the microphone and says, hey kids, there's a watermelon eating contest on the other side of the park right now! 25 kids got up and ran across the park until they disappeared to go to the watermelon eating contest.
Perfect.
And I stood there going, that will never happen again. And multiple times people have asked for my microphone, and almost always it's to make an announcement about their event. Nope, I won't give you that. I got my audience here. I'm not giving you any. Not giving this up. Not going to happen. So anyway, that was my.
That's your horror story.
That was the only one I could think. I mean, I got lots more, but that one here, that one was like number 1, and I've never forgotten that.
That's great. That's great. Thank you, Ken, for coming in. I really appreciate you coming in and sharing all this wonderful, amazing information. Make sure to check out our show notes, www.thevarietyartist.com. To all my variety artists out there, go out and book those gigs, make some money, and have some fun.
That's all for this episode of The Variety Artist, but your journey continues on our website. Go to thevarietyartist.com for more strategies, insight, and resources, as well as show notes on today's guest to assist you in your career. We'll see you on the next episode of The Variety Artist. But until then, go out and book those gigs, make some money, and have some fun.
Where do they go?